Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second unconference event that Engage to Learn is hosting. This is called Redesign Learning. My name is Shannon Buerk. I'm the CEO for Engage to Learn, and we're so excited to have you here. Thank you for turning on your cameras and letting everyone connect, get to know each other virtually. It's going to be a great day, power-packed, action-packed day. So what I would love for us to do is just start by just greeting each other in the chat. And so thank you for muting your mic, because as you all have learned, I'm sure, it is hard to share the mic with a group this large, but you'll have some time to talk in your smaller group sessions later. But if you don't mind just sharing who you are, where you're from, and maybe your expectations for this morning in the chat. We have a great group of folks here, and I think it'll be awesome for people to know who all is here, because maybe there will be some opportunities for collaboration today or even after today. So if you don't mind saying where you're from, who you are, where you're from, and then connecting. So we're glad to have so many of our friends here, and excited to meet some new people today. We're so excited to be able to offer an opportunity for people to collaborate across the state, because in these crazy, uncertain times, it's really good to hear from each other and learn from each other. So that's part of what today is all about. So we're going to talk a little bit this morning about equity of the learning experience at this unconference. I just wanted to put up, we're seeing it in the chat, but I also wanted to put up just real quick a slide that shows all the districts that are in attendance today. And once again, just so proud to be serving so many Texas districts and to have so many Texas districts here today. We are providing this event of Redesign Learning to, well, for one thing, I should say that obviously we're an organization that helps school districts, and but we are thankfully already full for 2021. So in terms of trying to get new business, that's not what this event is about. We're actually, we could probably only take one or two more clients for this fall. We do have other things that we are providing out for free, and really this is a mission piece for us. I mean, we have our virtual courses and we have other things that people could buy from us, but really we are about making sure that the neighborhood public school is the first choice for every family. We believe in public schools, and we know that at this point, we feel very strongly, and I know everyone else does too, that we are at we're really at a important juncture in public schools, and there's so much happening and everything's changing so rapidly. And then of course we have opponents in public schools. We have people that would like to see public schools not do well. And there were even some, quite a few actually articles that came out. And if you look at those sources, and for some of them, like this Fordham Institute that I tweeted about, they're purposely trying to point out things that that public schools were doing wrong. And so I tweeted about this one because their contention was that public education is just too large. It just doesn't change quickly enough. Although, as you saw on the Padlet, like most people said, that's really what we did well, as we adapted so quickly. So that's what I tweeted about, is that's not really true. But we know that there were some things, of course, about this spring with this rapid change that were issues. And so some of the things that are coming out are important for us to look at and make sure that we are addressing this next round. And that's really why we wanted to share this event, is because we want to make sure that our public neighborhood school partners, and really all public schools, not only survive through this, but really thrive and are really able to help students get exactly what they need. So we know some of the research is showing that there's been, that it didn't work this spring in terms of achievement. Now, most of us don't even have data to know, so I'm not sure. I mean, I know that some of these folks figured that out by providing some assessment. But what we do know, and I think we know this anecdotally, even if we don't know it quantitatively, is that really we know that one thing that happened this spring is the gap increased. And so we know that, especially for our children of poverty or with special needs, that it was difficult. Of course, public schools are amazing in what they do and what they're able to overcome. And without time to prepare and the opportunity to prepare, and then that a lot of kids just didn't get really what they needed this spring. So we know that there's more learning gaps for low income and special needs children. And this was shared out from TEA, I think more than once, but that slide is real, and that we have some work to do, of course, this next year to make up for really what happened. And you can see, if you haven't seen that slide, I think it is important for us to look at that. So what didn't work? What didn't work this spring? We talked about what worked now, and we've shared that out. So in the chat, if you don't mind just sharing, what do you feel like did not work this spring? And while y'all do that, I'm going to share some things that we've heard from different folks already. We've heard some things like, whole group virtual lectures didn't work. Whole group virtual anything didn't work that well with all the kids in one place. Now, it did work to connect. It was so very sweet to see folks, kids getting on and getting to see their teachers and getting to see each other. That was amazing. But in terms of student achievement, it was very difficult. We've heard that random assignments from parents' point of view didn't work. We've also heard that all self-paced, like just self-paced on a computer without any interaction with others didn't work. And teachers just being left on their own to figure it out. And districts, again, most of this was unavoidable this spring. So this is not criticism. This is just, how do we learn from this? But most of this was unavoidable this spring. It happened that way it happened, but we want to make sure that we're avoiding these things as we go forward. These are a couple of TikToks. I don't know, I am not on TikTok, but I have kids that, get on there and know about this stuff. And I don't know if you've seen all the school hacks, but, there were the school hacks of, kids showing, older kids anyway, showing like, if you get on and you just want to, you get asked a question and you don't want to answer it, you just freeze. And then your teacher thinks you're frozen, and then you don't have to answer the question because your internet went out or whatever. And so they're just all kind of TikToks like that. These were a few that were really creative. And some of these, I think Ashley found these, and the kids were saying that they spent 3 to 4 hours a day for several days outside of class meeting together to make sure that they could pull this off as they got into class together on there. So, a lot of creativity going on. So the kids, it seems like, we're even more creative about hacking, virtual school than they are about hacking regular school. So what worked were things like learner-centered approaches. These are things that I saw come up on your screen already. We heard these from our districts. We were working with 47 districts this spring, and we were able to start virtual coaching March 23rd and still stay connected to them. And so these were some of the things that we saw and heard that really worked. Learner-centered approaches, concept-based unit organization, making sure the units were really centered around some concept, engaging the learners and the families in goal setting and in task management, like giving them some process for that up front and during the time, and then focusing on mastery. And of course, there's a lot of conversation about how do you grade and how do you, what do you do with all that? But the focus on mastery and kind of competency-based focus seemed to work well. And then coaching everyone. I mean, it's interesting. Again, we've been coaching for 9 years, and I think we got better. We got the best feedback we've ever gotten this spring from our coaching. And I think the reason is because people were, desperate. We were worried that, not being face-to-face would be an issue, but it wasn't. I think people really just needed the support. And so the virtual coaching worked really, really well this spring. But that is something that people said, like, wow, we really needed that. So in your districts, I encourage you to, make sure you set that up. One of the approaches that worked really well was we helped districts set up what we called the spring virtual professional learning teams, utilizing folks like librarians and other people to be coaches and really to provide that support. And I think that one-on-one conversation was really beneficial. So these are things we heard from our partners, and what this morning is about, really what today is all about. The reason that we're doing this redesign learning is because we have the benefit of working closely with 47 districts, hearing from those districts, hearing what they felt like went well. And we want to share that out with the state, with the world. Actually, we have more than just the state on here. We have folks from across the nation. So we wanted to share that out with everyone so that we can all benefit from that this fall, and we can really be able to do the things that really worked well. So these are a few things. I appreciated what Juan Cabrera shared with me directly. He just said, really, when we put at what they called EPISD at home and learning in place, it was really the fact that they had been working on active learning in their district and active literacy for several years. And so the fact that they'd been working on that really helped them to make that happen. Uvalde was a new client of ours this spring, and and had a learning framework that we'd help them develop, and they hadn't even trained on it yet. And they used that to roll out their at-home or their remote learning, and it worked really well as well. And then we had some districts that had, done some blended before, and just some of the components of that really helped them roll out. So we are wanting to share, okay, we don't know exactly what the fall is going to look like. We're seeing the spikes again right now. Is it going to be on site at all, or is it going to be hybrid most of the time, or is it going to be remote the entire time? Is it going to be asynchronous or synchronous? I know y'all are making those decisions right now. What we wanted to share with you this morning and today was really what's going to work based on what we already know. What do we predict is going to work regardless of which of these 4 features, or if all of these 4 features happen, what strategy is going to work? And so we've heard, we need to make sure that we're mitigating learning loss this fall, the learning loss that happened from the spring. We need to truly differentiate, make sure that learners are getting exactly what they need, not things that are whole group for everybody. We need to make sure we engage learners more. Like they're not always engaged, with the right things, like we just saw from that TikTok. They're engaged with, figuring out how to pass that pencil around virtually in the whole. If you haven't seen that one, it's really funny and a great accomplishment. But we want to engage them more in the learning, and ensure learning is more cohesive, focus on mastery, and address equity. We know that there were equity issues with the way that we rolled out this spring. For example, if I'm in a home that I have parents who are educators, well, actually, that's not always true. I know people on our team were struggling because it's like working full time. It's also hard to help your kids that are home learn. But what if you're in a home that the parents aren't there at all, or there are mental health issues, etc.? So in terms of addressing equity, we need to have a solution that does not privilege students that have, parents and educated parents that learn. We need to have a solution that all kids can learn. So we have appreciated for a long time this, illustration about equity, and I'm sure y'all are familiar with it. It's really powerful to say that, we don't want to, everyone is buying devices right now, and that's amazing, and that's super important, because part of equity is everyone having resources. But just giving everyone the same resource really is just equality. And that's what this illustration was designed to be, is just, if you give everyone a resource or the same resource, that's not truly equity. Equity is giving everyone what they need. And that is based on all kinds of circumstances and situations, but that's why it has to be truly differentiated. Or what if we just take the barriers down altogether? And that's really the solution that we want to share with you today, is a solution that completely changes the experience. We want to make sure that, especially our most vulnerable students who are not necessarily coming to school ready, they're less prepared even to work in this virtual environment. We want to make sure that we don't make these gaps worse, right? Because these are the 3 gaps that we see from the research. 30,000 fewer words, so they need more opportunities to communicate. So just thinking about that, what not to do, giving students who are 30,000 fewer words, have 30,000 fewer words than their peers, just the opportunity to just get on a computer and stay on a computer all day long without being able to speak or communicate or interact is going to exacerbate this problem. So we know that we have language delays for some of those students, and that ends up impacting literacy and all kinds of things. Just being on a computer, just working on, quote, personalized courses on a computer is going to exacerbate that language delay problem. Significant gaps in cognitive skills. So one of the things that really needs to happen is giving learners the opportunity to gain those metacognitive skills, those skills that help them teach themselves. And then also we know social functioning. So what are we doing about SEL? And I know that everybody understands this. Everybody's trying to figure out the answer to this. So hopefully what we're going to present to you today will be a solution, because we know that we want to make sure that, we're helping kids bridge the gap. If you haven't seen this photo before, this is a picture of that bridge that you see in the photo is the world's strongest bridge. It was designed to withstand a Category 5 hurricane. And it did. It actually did. There was a Category 5 hurricane. The bridge is still standing, but guess what happened? The river moved. So we want to make sure that as we're preparing kids for their future, that we're giving them the skills, that we're allowing them to acquire the skills that they need, so that since the context has changed so much, they still have a way to get to the future that they deserve, that they're hoping for and that they deserve. And to do that, we need to make sure that we change the experience that we're having, even when it's remote. So how can we address equity? We cannot give them one size fits all and just do it faster this fall. We can't do one size fits all and just do it slower. We can't create 35 IEPs, one for every person in the classroom. So what do? Well, we feel like the answer, based on what we've learned and what we've seen, and really it's what we've seen over the last 9 years also, because over the last 9 years, we've been using a model that we see closes the gap. We've seen it help, especially our most vulnerable students, especially our students with special needs, and especially our students of poverty, which is why we're working more and more in the large urban districts, because we want to work with those students. We want to help those students close the gap. And what we've learned is the answer is change who owns the process. So in 1998, the state put out the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills that was supposed to change really from the teacher teaches something to the learner masters something, but we've still been using teacher-directed classrooms. And if we make remote learning teacher-directed, we still will not have addressed this issue. So the idea is, how do we change that process? We put out a 3-phase plan. This plan is on our website. If you want to see it, it is 100% free to everyone who is an educator. It's got resources and all kinds of ideas to how to guide this upcoming year and what to do with that. So one of those things is scaffold the standards to make sure that you mitigate learning loss. We have a workspace on there that you can use to do that. Also create learner agency, and then make sure that you're coaching people, that you're providing support. The Scaffolding the Standards workspace, many of you have already probably gone through this process, but check it out if you haven't. That workspace is really helpful. And then the other thing that we're providing out, again, for free, is this learning model that we've used for the past 9 years very, very successfully in districts. It's not project-based learning, it's not inquiry-based learning, it's not personalized learning, it's not blended learning, it's not active learning, it's not competency-based learning, it's not mastery learning, it's all of those things, which is really just learning. This is a model that allows the learner to have a voice and involved in the process, and it really does all of those things in one model. How does it work? Well, these are the steps that you go through, and you invite the learner to have a part in the process. And how do you do that? And you don't have to use our model, you can use a different model, but the difference between a learning model and an instructional model is that in a learning model, the learner has a role, the learner has a voice, the learner is the one that guides the process. And that's what we need when we go remote. We need a way for the learner to be in control of their own process and to learn the skills to do that. So in this model, we've provided learner protocols, something that guides what the learner does in each step of the process. Yes, there are also educator protocols, and actually we've added family protocols so that when it goes remote, you can see what happens. But in each step of the process and launch team, it tells the learner, here's what you would do in this. In plan, it tells the learner, here's how you would make a plan for your learning. And what that does is creates learner autonomy. It allows the learner to get into the driver's seat and set goals and plan their own learning. And that allows for true differentiation, because that allows the learner to create their individual playlist that matches their exact needs. And that's how we get to efficiently mitigating learning loss, is for each learner to get exactly what they need. If we free up the barriers, if we don't require them all to do the same thing this fall, but we allow them to do exactly what they need in each situation, and we provide the resources for that, that's how we'll really accelerate learning and get to mastery for every learner, no matter where they are in the process. Many of you that are on here already, you have these frameworks because we've helped you build one for yourself. And so you don't need to use the E2L model this fall. You can use your own framework in this same way. You just need to teach it to everyone. And we have an implementation guide about how to roll it out if you haven't already done that district-wide, because we usually say do a responsible rollout, and now we're saying no, share it with everyone in your district, because everyone needs it. Every learner, every teacher, every family needs to understand that model so that that can guide what happens with learning this fall.